Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do when it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you. When judgment comes for you. Tell me what you gonna do when it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you. 'Cause it's gonna come for you.
Making it for water, easy, see some for Charlie. Little boo for God's got him. And I'm gonna miss everybody out of roll and flow like I looked at a wild flag. And play for dust and they play too deep for beach side. Little legs I came to be. Told me your feature deceased, would it please? Marry me by my grand way. You can't go follow
God bless you, working on a plan to heaven.
Backbone Wrestling Network. Welcome back to the CrosUp, your weekly look back at the week that was professional wrestling. This week I'll be running through the results and happenings from Raw on July the 13th to Collision on July the 18th, as well as the Saturday night's main event, which I was completely wrong about last week because I thought this is the one that was on Sunday, but apparently that is the next one. So I will be covering Saturday night's main event as well. We open Raw with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. They have a bunch of cops/security around them. The fans chant for Obafemi, obviously. Heyman explains how obsessed Femi is with facing Lesnar. Heyman finds it interesting to see Femi being obsessed because so many people are until they get hit in the face. This time, though, Lesnar is obsessed with Femi and has been looking past hunting trips and training camps to get his hands on Obafemi in Hell in a Cell. Before then, though, Heyman has gone to a judge and gotten a restraining order to prevent any violence. Lesnar takes his hat off because he'll be abiding by the judge's orders. Femi then comes out to interrupt. Femi is here to fight, so Lesnar and Heyman leave. Femi beating up the cops instead of Lesnar himself. With Lesnar and Heyman up on the stage, Femi says he would have gotten his title shot, but Lesnar would have cost him anyways. So at SummerSlam, there is no more running as they're in Hell in a Cell. But then got our first match of the night. Io Sky defeats Roxanne Perez via pinfall with a roll-up despite constant interference and distraction from Liv and Raquel. After the match, the Judgment Day girls beat them down until Sol Ruca runs in to make the save. That earns her getting swung into the barricade and a powerbomb against the ring post. And then Liv hits Io in the face with the women's world title. So the faces are left laying. We then recap the issues with the Bloodline on SmackDown, just everything that's kind of been going on with them lately. We then have the Vision, now with Maxine Dupree. They come out to brag about getting the tag team titles back. Dupree goes to explain, but here is the very sad-looking Alpha Academy to interrupt. They want an explanation and beg her to come back, but she didn't think it was fair that she had to pick between them. Otis told her that Austin Theory was bad news, but she insists that they don't even know Theory. As Otis seems ready to confess his feelings for Maxine, Theory gets on the apron to laugh the whole thing off. The fight is on with Tozawa diving at Bron Breakker, who suplexes him clean over the announce table. We go back in the ring, and the beatdown continues, but Otis fights back in the corner. We then have the Vision come out with Maxine Dupree now as an official member. They brag about their tag team title win. We then have Maxine go to explain herself, but Alpha Academy then comes out to interrupt. They want an explanation and beg her to come back, but she didn't think it was fair that she had to pick between the two factions. Otis told her that Theory was bad news, but she insists that they don't even know him that well. As Otis seems ready to confess his feelings for Maxine, Theory gets on the apron and laughs the whole thing off. They start to battle, and Tozawa dives at Bron Breakker. He catches him and suplexes him clean over the announce table. Back in the ring, they continue to beat down. Otis fights back in the corner. Otis seems to be going to give a kiss to Maxine, but Theory gets in a low blow. And then Breakker hits a huge spear to Tozawa and drops Otis with another one. We then get the announcement that Survivor Series is in Houston this year. It'll be where the Houston Astros play. Daikin Park, I think is what it's called. So used to be Minute Maid Park, obviously. We then have Royce Keys defeat Jimmy Uso via DQ when Jacob Fatu arrives and lays out Keys. After the match, Fatu wrecks Keys and wraps the chair around his neck in the corner, seemingly about to do the Umaga kind of splash and charge. We then have Solo Sikoa pop up. Obviously Fatu doesn't hit that move, but because Solo pops up to call Fatu off, saying blood is thicker than water. That's why he's here, because he's calling home to the family. They then they didn't throw the ones in the air, but then Solo smiles and spikes Jimmy, and the blood, but the bloodline is back up. LA Knight then comes in for the real save, and though he has a chair to the back, just wakes Fatu up seemingly. Fatu then chairs him to the floor and says that's not enough, because he wants the two of them in the ring. Throw in Jimmy Uso, and we can do a 6-man tag at SummerSlam. We then have Paul Heyman. He applauds the Vision for their efforts, but says that Maxine was so great tonight that they don't need him anymore. So Heyman seemingly out on the Vision, and then Heyman obviously walks away. We get video of the history of Hell in a Cell, obviously hyping up Femi versus Lesnar a little bit more. But Femi then comes up to Adam Pearce and threatens a lot of violence in Hell in a Cell. There's not much Adam Pearce can do about it. We then have Bayley. She says she has always been the worst of the 4 horsewomen, but lists off some of her own accomplishments. She's going to add beating Lyra Valkyria at Madison Square Garden, because their match is set for Saturday night's main event. And then Lyra gets a cheap shot in to cut off Bayley. Bayley cuts off the cheap shot, but Lyra ends up beating down Bayley anyways. So there was a little bit of a segment there between the two of them. So we'll move on from there. We look at the Shield splitting up with the chair shot that ultimately led to the creation of the Bloodline, or Roman kind of going out on his own. So obviously that list, or that set off a chain of events that led to Roman being the man that he is today. We then get a vignette for it shows him pretty clearly, but Big Cass is going to be back on August 3rd, which will be the Monday following SummerSlam, obviously. So we will see if Enzo Amore comes along with him, but we do have Big Cass headed back on August 3rd. We then have Chad Gable. He wins the gauntlet match to become the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship, and he will face Penta at SummerSlam. He last eliminates Ethan Page via submission with an ankle lock. The other participants in order of elimination are Joe Hendry, Dom Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Javon Evans, and Rusev. Penta then comes out after the match and stares down with Chad Gable, but obviously we don't get any physicality. We then look at the recent issues with the WWE Championship on SmackDown, obviously leading to the tag team match that we will have on Saturday night's main event between Cody and Punk versus Gunther and Sami Zayn. We see Roman Reigns arrive, and it's time for a contract signing. Roman comes to the ring first. He tells us to acknowledge him. But then right after that, Seth Rollins interrupts and comes to join him for the contract signing. Rollins signs before the music finishes playing, and says him beating Reigns is one of those things that you can't avoid. With his feet on the table, Rollins tells Reigns to get on with this, and Reigns says he wishes that Rollins that last week. Last week, Rollins proved himself to be Reigns' #1 hater, and Reigns doesn't like that because it has people believing they're on the same level. Reigns will prove the difference between the two of them at SummerSlam, where he'll show Rollins what #1 looks like. That's enough for Reigns to sign, and we're officially set for the world title at SummerSlam. Rollins is pleased with this and tells him to keep the title warm, and he'll see Reigns next time he wants to show up for work. Reigns cuts him off and asks what happens if Rollins does win. Is he going to hold the title for a few months and then get hurt again? It's what happens every single time, because some people just can't handle the pressure being the top guy. That brings Rollins back inside to tell Reigns to just say something. Reigns says he knows Rollins is #2 because after all these years, he still needs Money in the Bank and a fake injury to win the championship. If there's ever a time to be #1, Rollins' work daddy, Triple H, is basically running the place and should be able to, kind of steer things towards him. They gave Rollins all Reigns' stuff, but he still couldn't walk in Reigns' shoes. Reigns will always be #1, and Rollins will always be #2. So just acknowledge it, bitch. Rollins asks if that's all he has, and says they're not doing the same thing. He's glad that he isn't Reigns, and then they battle a little bit. Rollins beats him down. The stomp is countered with a Superman punch, but Rollins uses the microphone to get out of a power bomb, and then he hits the stomp, and Rollins stares down Reigns on the floor or on the mat to end the show. The best match on Raw for me was the Gauntlet match. It took up a lot of time. There wasn't but like 3 or 4 matches on the show total, so not much to pick from. I think that seemingly was a big part of this week until we get to Collision, where there were 800 matches, it felt like. So, but we will go from there to NXT. The Vanity Project opened things up, defending their tag title successfully, defeating Strong Legacy and Dorian Van Dukes when they hit the reverse DDT double stomp combo on Dukes after some slight interference by Michael Lockwood on the outside. We have Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne. They think they could take the tag team titles, but Cam Hendricks comes in to say that he wants the North American title. He says he's about 82% currently, but Showtime will be coming soon. We then have Saquon Sugars. He wants OTM to be his partners against Dark State, but they remember him being a bit evil, so that's a no. OTM goes over to talk to Birthright for going after them, but Birthright brings up Bronco Nima going to AAA on his own and not with his partner. Maybe there are some cracks in the OTM foundation is what Lexus King says, and they're kind of trying to drive a wedge between the two of them. We then go to Tristan Angels. He comes out to cut a promo. He's obviously not a big fan of Shiloh Hill, who has a family tree involving wild animals, but Angels is here with Hill's missing tooth. Angels then goes and puts the tooth on top of the steps and smashes it and crushes it. So his dental implant is now gone. Shiloh Hill then pops up on the screen saying that he can fix his smile, but Angels can't fix the fact that the fog is coming, and then fog kind of fills the arena, or smoke, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see what these two have down the line, but obviously they're not done with each other. We then go to Natty and her crew. They think that Nikita Lyons should replace the injured Layla Diggs in the women's North American title match tonight, because they kind of announced that early in the show that Zarya will be defending the title, but not against Layla Diggs, who won a number 1 contendership last week because she had an injury over the weekend. Lizzie Rain and Izzy Dame are both in there as well, and they want the title shot as well. Robert Stone is sick of this, and he puts Nikita, Izzy, and Lizzie all into the match. So we will have a fatal 4-way for the North American title later on. We then have Naraku defeat Tate Wilder via pinfall following Enter the Abyss. After the match, Tony D'Angelo comes in to attack Naraku with security only having so much success keeping them apart. We then have Hank and Tank and EK Prosper. They turn Saquon Sugars down as well. So nobody wants to team with Saquon due to his dastardliness within Dark State before he obviously was kicked out. Zarya then retains her championship, defeating Nikita Lyons, Izzy Dame, and Lizzie Rain when she hits the F5 on Nikita to get the win. We then have Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray. They turn Saquon Sugars down too. I don't really know. I mean, obviously, they're a tough couple of ladies, but I don't know what they were really going to do up against the rest of Dark State. So, but Lola Vice comes in to say that she's basically not done with Kendall for the women's championship, obviously. We then have Tony D'Angelo. He demands Robert Stone give Naraku another title match, and the match is set for next week. D'Angelo says he isn't waiting, and Stones chases after him, not knowing what that means. We then have Jackson Drake defeat Tavion Heights via pinfall when he reverses a belly-to-belly attempt into a sunset flip. We then hear from newcomer Raina Vulcan once again. She is a force of nature and is ready to wreck the women's roster for NXT. Saquon Sugars then goes to Noam Dar and Romeo Moreno, and they actually say yes to helping him. So we'll see what kind of help they can. I feel like they still need. Well, no, it'll be 3-3. Never mind. They'll see what they can kind of do up against Dark State. So we'll see what kind of happens with that going forward. Callie Armstrong then talks trash to Kendall Gray and promises to win. Armstrong runs into Jada Parker, who doesn't seem too impressed with her, and then Natty and her crew jump Jada from behind. We then have a vignette for Sean Spears. He saw the potential in the culling, and he's proud of Izzy Dame taking the lead. He was proud of Nico Vance for taking a step forward as well, but then he took 2 steps back. let's find out how much Vince has learned when I come in contact with him again, obviously. We then have our main event where Lola Vice defeats Kalani Jordan and Callie Armstrong when Kalani hits the 450 on Callie, but Vice then kicks Kalani off of the pin and steals the victory for herself. So she is the number one contender for Kendall Gray going forward. But before we end that show, we run down next week's card, but then we go to the parking lot, the most dangerous place in NXT. Tony D'Angelo and Naraku are fighting in the parking lot, so Robert Stone comes in to make their title match next week a street fight. So we'll see how that goes for them. But as far as best match for me on NXT, I would go with, I feel like I go with the women every week, but they continue to blow it out of the water. So Lola, Kalani, and Callie get that victory for me this week. We then go to Dynamite. We get a recap of last week's Beach Break Dynamite. We then go to Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. They are warming up for their tag title match that they have tonight. Jon Moxley fires them up and then tells Will Ospreay that he has earned this, but it is time for some hard decisions. Ospreay has to take the shot when he has the chance, no matter who the target is, obviously saying that he knows that Kenny Omega is his friend and he has other friends on the roster. But if you want to be champion, you can't be afraid to take them out, no matter who. We then have that tag title match. Cope and Cage retain over Yuta and Garcia when Cope hits the spear on Yuta. After the match, the Dogs run in and beat the champs down, but the Bang Bang Gang comes in for the save. The Dogs are cleared out, and then Christian Cage and Jay White kind of go face-to-face. But they don't fight, but they kind of obviously look like they still don't trust each other. We then look at Hikaru Shida attacking Harley Cameron after their match and Queen Aminata making the save. Aminata will be getting a TBS title shot on Collision. We then get another video for Andrade. We then like kind of a vignette a little bit, kind of showing that he's turned on the Don Callis family and that he's ready to go after some championships. We then get a promo from him. Andrade is ready to beat Jake Doyle and move on to winning the world title eventually. Oh, and he has come into possession of the Dynamite Diamond Ring and he seemingly thanks Will Ospreay for some reason. So, he gave it to him because he stole it from him at Beach Break last week. The conglomeration then tease an open challenge for the trios title and the demand interrupt. Don't worry, though, they're not going to lay a finger on the champs, and then obviously their buddies, the Lethal Twist, come in and jump the conglomeration for them. We then have Andrade defeat Jake Doyle via pinfall following the DM. That gets Andrade a national title shot, obviously, so we'll see what happens when he gets that. We then get video on Kenny Omega winning the world title last week. He's out to have a world title celebration. The Young Bucks are out to present the original world title to Kenny to replace the Triple B that MJF had, obviously, with the custom strap and all that. Omega didn't think that this was going to get back. He didn't think he was going to get back to the spot, and thanks everyone for believing in him. We have less than 50 days before All In, and you are going to see the best version of Kenny Omega. Will Ospreay then comes out, asks the Bucks if he can talk to Omega by themselves. The Bucks leave in peace, and Ospreay is glad that Omega is world champion once again. Last week, Omega got in his face with the belt and then kicked out once you cheeky slag. So he says something obviously very, very Australian that I don't understand. But Ospreay then has wanted to, or British, sorry. Ospreay has wanted to be just a fraction of the wrestler that Kenny Omega is, and now he wants to show everyone what he can do at All In. Kevin Knight then comes in saying he wants to face Omega one-on-one first. Knight wants the title shot at Redemption, and Omega says no, but he'll give Knight a title shot anyways because he thinks Knight has something. Then Knight listened to Don Callis, which Omega understands. Omega did that before, and he bought into the idea, but Knight doesn't need to be there. Now Omega is saying that the same thing that everybody else, same thing that everyone else is, but Don Callis believes Don Callis doesn't need, or Kevin Knight doesn't need Don Callis because he could be champion on his own. That makes Knight the only real fraud because there is a good guy in there who doesn't need Don Callis. If Kevin Knight is getting the title shot, Omega wants him to get it on his own. Omega says there isn't goodness in him because it's greatness. With that, Kevin Knight decks Omega with a microphone and ducks a hidden blade to escape. Darby Allin runs in to jump Knight, so here is the Don Callis family to beat Darby down, and then the Death Riders come in to make the save from there. We then have Jack Perry issue an open challenge for Collision. We then have Brodito squash Nick Camarado and Aaron Solo when Bandito hits a frog splash, and then they do a double pin. After the match, Bandito runs into Kyle Fletcher and gives him a wanted poster. We then have Kyle Fletcher come up for his match. He defeats Commander via pinfall following a brainbuster. After the match, Fletcher goes for the mask, but Konosuke Takeshita runs in to make the save. Kazuchika Okada comes out too, and the Rainmaker drops Takeshita. Brodito then runs in to take out Okada and Fletcher, and the faces kind of stand tall there at the end. Kenny Omega says he's ready to face Kevin Knight at Redemption, but Darby Allin comes in to say Knight isn't changing overnight. Allin is ready to take the TNT title away from him and leaves. And then Jon Moxley comes in to agree that some people cannot change. We then have the Brawling Birds. They cut a quick promo. They want the women's tag team titles, and All In is coming up. So let's consume some alcohol and take some titles. So they seem to be headed towards the Divine Dominion at the big show. We then have Chris Jericho. He wants a rematch with Tommaso Ciampa at Redemption, but he'll bring the Painmaker, obviously, with the bat and the face paint. Ciampa is in and issues an open challenge himself for Collision. So Ciampa versus Jericho in a street fight. I don't know if it quite gets made a street fight here, but it eventually gets made a street fight. So we'll see what happens when we get there. Darby Allin then defeats Brian Cage via pinfall following a couple of coffin drops, one on the steps and one in the ring. Kyle Fletcher is then pissed off and ready to defend his title against anyone. For now, he wants Bandito, and the title shot is offered for Redemption. Kevin Knight and Don Callis are ready to take out Kenny Omega. Mike Bailey comes in to say that he's ready. He knows that Knight can change, and he wants him to change back and be his buddy again. We then have Mercedes Moné and the Divine Dominion in our main event defeat Willow Nightingale, Mile World, and Hyan when Moné hits the Moneymaker on Hyan. As far as best match for Dynamite, I would go with Fletcher versus Commander. Obviously coming off a huge show last week. This one was bound to be worse than that one, but this was one of the less strong, I guess I'll say, Dynamites out there. It was still a really good show, but definitely not to the greatness that they've reached lately, and definitely, obviously, a step down from last week. We then go to Impact. From there, we open with a recap of last week's Knockouts title main event between Xia Brookside and Lei Ying Li. We then have our opener, which is a TV title tournament match. M by Elegance defeats Rosemary when M is able to use the distraction from the rest of the brand to miss Rosemary and then rolls her up from there. We then have the System. They want to make it clear that they are not falling apart. In fact, they are ready for their matches tonight, including Cedric Alexander defending his title against Fabian Eichner. Moose defeats AJ Francis via disqualification when Kazarian, who was on commentary, pulls Moose out and throws him into the ring post. After that, Francis chokeslams Moose to put a little extra stank on it, I guess. Elena Black is then ready to win her tournament match next week and become the greatest knockout in history. Xia Brookside comes in to warn her to watch her mouth. Black doesn't seem all that impressed by the champion. We then have Order 4 to address their future. Mustafa Ali complains about the team. Obviously doesn't complain about Agent Zero, who hasn't had the chance to screw up lately, I guess. But he complains about them screwing up and brings in a new Secretary of Strategic Affairs, which is Mila Moore. Mila Moore obviously was in a group with Tessa Blanchard, who is no longer with Impact. So they needed to find something for her to do. Tasha Steelz, being the alpha female in Order 4, doesn't seem too impressed, as Moore is ready to figure out what is next for the team. Ali knows what should be next, giving the power to the roster. Therefore, next week, anyone in their locker room can vote for who gets a international title shot. So maybe not exactly what I was thinking was going to happen with this segment, but I think they're obviously headed for some changes. Obviously, this is the way to kind of start to work Tasha Steelz out, but I eventually assume that the Great Hands will be replaced by a team that he deems more more deserving of the spot. We then have the Righteous. They get an invitation to the Hardy compound for a deletion match. So obviously another crazy Hardy's match. We'll see how that goes. And then we get Bear Bronson defeating Ricky Sosa via pinfall, following the bear down, which is his sit-out tombstone that he's does as his finisher. We then have Moose request and receive help from Elijah against AJ Francis and Frankie Kazarian. Then have another TV title tournament match. Thea Hale defeats Harley Hudson via pinfall with a springboard trust fall splash. So she advances to the next round. We then have Nick Nemeth come out to cut a promo. He knows what it's like to have the world chasing him. And when the title goes on the line, it's big box office and big money. This brings out Casey Navarro to interrupt, but Nemeth says serious inquiries only. Nemeth tells him to leave, and Navarro starts to head out, but turns around to shout about why he does everything he does. He lost his chances before, but beating Nemeth can prove that it's all worth it. Nemeth then mocks the speech and says this is his one and only shot, and Navarro says that's fine, and he's in. And then we get our main event where Cedric Alexander defeats Fabian Eichner via pinfall when Eddie Edwards comes ringside and attacks Fabian, hitting him with the Boston Knee Party. And then he throws him back in, and Cedric hits the lumbar check to get the win. And then after the match, the beatdown is on until Ricky Sosa and Leon Slater run in to make the save. So pretty solid episode of Impact. That main event match was definitely the best match for me. So check that one out if you check anything out from Impact. We then have SmackDown. We open with the recap of the WWE Championship and Gunther and all this is disagreements, of course. We then get Gunther to get things going. He prides himself on being professional, but since he joined SmackDown, he has been treated horribly. Nick Aldis is the one who made it personal, and he made it worse by putting him in a tag match at Saturday night's main event. Adam Pearson comes out who says Gunther only owes Aldis for saving his job. Aldis made sure that the match is still on and the stipulation is still on, and that if he had allowed Aldis to get to it, the stipulation is if Gunther and Sammy win, they will be added to the title match at SummerSlam and make it a fatal four-way. Gunther absolutely approves of this, but here's Cody Rhodes to come out and start a fight. Rhodes yells about how Gunther had to know that this was coming, and he wants him tonight in the main event. And Pierce makes it official. We then go to earlier today. Pierce announces that Rhea Ripley is too injured to compete at SummerSlam. There will be a interim women's world or WWE Women's Champion crowned in a 5-way ladder match at SummerSlam, with Ripley getting the shot against the winner when she gets back. So obviously this means she's not going to be back at SummerSlam, but they think it's going to be pretty soon after. But we will have qualifying matches starting tonight on SmackDown. Finn Balor then defeats Tala Tonga via pinfall, following the coup de grace. So he's picked off both Tongans in the last 2 weeks. CM Punk then goes to Pierce and confirms the stipulation for Saturday night's main event. Damian Priest then comes in to say if Punk is retaining, he'll be coming for his title after that. Punk says that works for him and leaves in peace. R-Truth then comes up to ask what that was all about, and Priest says, dude, you were here the whole time. You heard everything. We then hear from various women on the roster about winning the ladder match and what it would mean to their career and obviously how they're going to accomplish it. We had our first qualifier where Tiffany Stratton defeats JC Jane via pinfall, following the prettiest moonsault ever. This qualifies Tiffany for the ladder match. We then go to Baron Corbin. He talks about his return last week. He attacked Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes because he's sick of hearing people pretending to be tough. We then get a kind of rebuttal from Trick. He wants some of Corbin because he is just a big, bald bitch. Carmelo then comes in and argues a bit, says he still wants his fair title shot, but he also says he wants Corbin down the line. We then look at Obafemi and Brock Lesnar almost brawl from Raw. Jade Cargill then defeats Nia Jax via DQ when Charlotte gets involved and goes after Jade. Obviously, this qualifies Jade for the ladder match. After the match, a very pissed off Nia Jax lays out Charlotte, allowing Cargill to come back in and hit Jaded on Charlotte as well. Gunther says he's ready for the main event and runs into Candice LeRae with Johnny Gargano. LeRae wants Gunther to win for Sammy's sake tomorrow, so Gunther says Sammy just needs to show up, and he'll take care of the rest. Blake Monroe then comes in and attacks Candice from behind and tells Johnny Gargano that he needs to get a haircut. We then have Lash Legend and Nia Jax. They yell at Adam Pearce over the disqualification, and Jax will get another chance to qualify against Charlotte next week as a result. We then have the War Raiders defeat Fraxium when they hit Ragnarok on Axiom to win the match. We then look at LA Knight and his crew being fired up at Fanatics Fest for their 6-man tag at SummerSlam. And then we just get some general videos of Fanatics Fest and all the superstars that were involved and all the athletes and all that kind of stuff and all, everything that happened there. We then get CM Punk. He comes up to Cody Rhodes to talk about tomorrow night in the stipulation. Punk will have Rhodes back, but they'll also see each other tomorrow and at SummerSlam. We then get a video of the confrontation between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins from Monday. We then go to Danhausen. He is reminded about his match with JD McDonough at Saturday night's main event, and he has a black cat, but he accidentally curses his computer, and he tells everyone that they should evacuate if they want what's best for them. So just some more Danhausen craziness, obviously. And then our main event, Cody Rhodes and Gunther ends in a no contest. I think Cody technically wins by DQ, but when it's kind of wishy-washy at the end like that, I usually just say it's a no contest. But Punk and Sammy kind of get involved, which is what leads to the DQ/no contest. And then they obviously brawl to end the show, and the security is not strong enough to hold them all off. So we just kind of cut away with them still battling. Fraxium and the War Raiders was an absolutely fantastic tag team match, kind of out of nowhere. It shows you that they have some strength in the tag division that they just don't use or care about for some reason. So I thought it was a really good match, and these are teams that probably deserve to be featured a lot more than they are. So, but we'll go from Collision to there before we wrap up with Saturday night's main event. Jack Perry defeats Nick Wayne via pinfall with the running knee. This will become a thing throughout the night. Apparently, a lot of knees being thrown in this show that finish off matches. We then have the Young Bucks. They are glad that Kenny Omega is world champion again, but they aren't sure if they can trust the Death Riders. Therefore, they want a match with Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay at Redemption. We then get video of the kind of confrontation between Cage and Cope and the Dogs from Dynamite. We then have a TNT title match. Kevin Knight defeats AR Fox via pinfall following the UFO splash. After the match, Knight sits on commentary and says he is ready for Darby Allin on Dynamite. We then have the Don Callis family represented by Hechicero, Brian Cage, and Jake Doyle defeat Gino Medina, Tomei Philippe, and Nick Nolan. I probably butchered a couple of those pronunciations, but that's what I'm going with. But Cage wins the match when he finishes off Nolan with when he flips him into a knee to the face, so another knee to the face. After the match, the family continues or comes in for the beatdown, continue to beat down these jobbers until Mike Bailey and the conglomeration clear them out. Will Ospreay talks about training with Adam Brooks and that says they have a match tonight. Moxley is fine facing the Young Bucks at Redemption. So Ospreay will have a match tonight, and we will have that tag team match officially at Redemption. The Dogs then do their kind of version of what the Bang Bang Gang's been doing, obviously going against gun violence, and tells everybody that AEW deserves to be a safe space and to put the guns down instead of guns up. So obviously just a kind of goofy way to get back at them for doing all the neuter stuff that they've been doing lately. We then have Will Ospreay. He defeats Adam Brooks via submission. It's not really a submission move, but he just rains down forearm after forearm after forearm, and Brooks eventually taps because he can't take anymore. We then have Darby Allin. He doesn't like Kevin Knight and what Kevin Knight has become, and burns a car to express how he feels about it. We then have Athena squash Ava Everett via submission with the Koji Clutch. The Brawling Birds then squash Tiara James and Kayla Lopez when they hit the 2 birds, 1 stone on James. The Bang Bang Gang then say they want to challenge the Dogs on Dynamite. I think it actually comes down to Jay White kind of challenges Clark Connors to a match. So we'll see if any of that kind of stuff, if they have a tag match or if it ends up just being one-on-one. Tommaso Ciampa then defeats Myron Reed in his open challenge via pinfall following another running knee. Post-match, Ciampa talks to Paul White, of all people, randomly, saying he wants to face Paul White's best friend, Chris Jericho, in a street fight at Redemption. So that's where they add the stipulation. We then look at Andrade El Idolo. He once again has the Dynamite Diamond ring, but Jake Doyle sneaks up behind him and chokes him out. We then have Mercedes Moné. She comes out to cut a promo there in Boston, which is her hometown. She promises to leave All In as champion. It doesn't matter whether she's facing Tekla or Willow Nightingale. She says the 2 of them hide behind something, but they can't hide after the bell rings in the ring with her. Either way, she's leaving All In with the Women's World title, completing her journey to that championship. We then have Cope and Cage. They are ready to face Claudio Castagnoli and Pac for their tag team titles. The Young Bucks then come in to suggest that they also want a title shot at some point, but they don't get physical. So we'll see when the Bucks and when the Bucks and Cope and Cage get in the ring with each other. We then have Bandito defeat Adam Priest, retaining his Ring of Honor World title. He wins via pinfall. He doesn't exactly hit the 21-plex, but it was basically what the 21-plex is, so I'm just going to call it the 21-plex, but he wins with that to retain his championship. We then have the Sisters of Sin. They are now 2/3 of the Stardom women's 6-man women's champions. 6 women champions, I should say. We then, and they say next week, though, they want the women's tag team titles here in AEW, and they want it in a hardcore match, so they challenged Divine Dominion to a hardcore match. And then we get our main event for Collision, which is Hikaru Shida defeating Queen Aminata via pinfall when she rolls her up and puts her feet on the ropes for leverage to get the win. And then Shida continues to beat down Aminata, but Maya World runs in to make the save, and then they make Maya World versus Shida for the TBS title for Redemption. A lot of solid matches, a lot of squashes at the same time, but I would go with the main event as my match of the night. So Aminata and Shida get my vote for the night. And then we will finish up the week right here with Saturday night's main event. They had a pre-show match. Trick Williams defeated Laredo Kid. I did not get a chance to watch that, but I know that it happened. But we get an opening video for the main show that looks at the history of the venue, obviously there in Madison Square Garden. So obviously home to WWE for a lot of years, but definitely an important place for WWE. And then we get Stephanie McMahon and Joe Tessitore. They're obviously very happy to be there, and they're kind of in that little platform spot up by the entranceway that we always have for the Saturday night's main events. So they'll be doing those kind of interviews up there. We then have Fatal Influence. They win the opener, defeating Paige and Brie Bella. When Paige has Reed rolled up, but JC hops on the apron, kind of reverses the momentum of the pinfall, and Reed gets the pinfall while also holding the tights. And this makes Fatal Influence of Fallon Henley and Laney Reed your new women's tag team champions. We then go to Sami Zayn. He is not happy with how badly things have been going for him lately because the whole situation has been completely unfair. Gunther comes in to say stay out of his way and don't ruin SummerSlam for him. We then go to a video called The Curse Father with Danhausen uncursing New York City and helping the New York Knicks win the NBA championship. This cost Judgment Day money, and they stole his special Knicks jersey to get back at him. Lots of curses ensued, and now it is time for some revenge. Judgment Day, we kind of get a rebuttal for them. They say they're not worried about Danhausen and his curses and are ready to end it with him tonight. We then have that match. Danhausen defeats JD McDonough via pinfall when Carl Anthony Townshausen emerges from Danhausen's cloning machine, chokeslams JD, and then chokeslams Dom, and Dom gets chokeslammed through a table. And then Danhausen picks up JD, hits his reverse DDT, and wins the match. So Karl Anthony Towns, the giant that Danhausen has been promising, of course. We then have Lyra Valkyria. She looks absolutely insane. She looks like she hasn't slept in a week and maybe not even bathed for a little bit as well. Her hair is a mess, and she just looks like a hot mess. But she is looking to end Bayley for good tonight. We then get another video from Fanatics Fest, kind of showing what all's gone on, the podcast that they recorded, and all that kind of stuff, and just what it's all about and all that kind of stuff. We then get a rebuttal from Bayley. She says she is also ready to finish Lyra Valkyria tonight. Lyra then defeats Bayley via submission when Bayley passes out in the Bulldog choke. After the match, Lyra chokes her out again and then plants her onto the steps to kind of leave her laying. So Lyra stands tall, and I'm still not convinced that she's going to be a great heel character, but as far as wrestling, I think she was really good as a heel on this match. So I was definitely impressed with her ability to wrestle as a heel, at least. I'm interested to see how good of a character she can be as a heel, but she impressed me on night one, at least. We get informed that there will be NXT and AAA events in New York over WrestleMania weekend. Obviously, WrestleMania is in Saudi, so I'm pretty sure we're probably just going to do both nights of WrestleMania over there and nothing else. So NXT and AAA will be in New York that weekend. We then have Rhodes and Punk. They get interviewed before their match. They're ready to team. There's going to be no tension between them, but they are ready to fight each other at SummerSlam as well. They're able to be good teammates, at least within the match. Punk and Cody defeat Sami Zayn and Gunther. When Nick Aldis comes out, pulls the ref out while Gunther is pinning Cody, Aldis then hits Gunther with a WWE Championship, and Punk follows it with a GTS and gets the pinfall victory. So it will remain just CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. Obviously, this pretty much cements that we're getting Aldis versus Gunther at SummerSlam, because if we don't, it would be a major flop at this point, but I'm fairly positive that'll happen. And then we get our final couple of segments. We get a video about New York sports narrated by our former Giants quarterback Eli Manning, focusing on Jalen Brunson as the new king of New York, bringing the New York Knicks a championship. We then have the Knicks blimp flying around the arena, and the fans go bonkers for it. And then we get Jalen Brunson. He gets a full introduction from his Knicks locker, and he obviously takes a really long time getting to the entranceway. He meets Roman Reigns, and they come out to Roman's music, and they obviously throw the ones to the sky. The fans are going nuts for Brunson as well as Roman Reigns. Roman talks about how this is WWE's home in Madison Square Garden. Reigns talks about how much of a sports team this is in WWE, and introduces Brunson as the king of New York. Every champion deserves a title, and hands Brunson a customized World Heavyweight title with a blue strap and obviously his number and the Knicks logo on the side plates. Reigns then says, "Acknowledge them," or "acknowledge us." And then this triggers Seth Rollins' music, but instead of Seth Rollins, Tyrese Halliburton comes through the entranceway with a chair. Rollins then jumps Roman from behind and loads up the stomp onto the chair, but Brunson steps in front of him. He obviously can't get physical because I think that's part of his contract. Plus, he has a brace on his wrist, obviously recovering for some kind of surgery. But this is enough to allow Reigns to pop up and hit a Superman punch, and then Halliburton and Seth Rollins end up bailing, with Roman putting the title on Brunson as he holds up the real thing. And then as a bonus, Roman Reigns gets to hold up the Larry O'Brien trophy, and they do a lot of posing to end the show. I thought the men's tag had a lot of drama and was it obviously had some stakes to it, which made it even better. But I think it definitely was a really awesome match, and it was match of the night. So definitely check that one out if you haven't checked out Saturday Night's Main Event as a whole. But thank you for joining me as always, and we will see you next time.
Look in my eyes. cult of personality. I know your anger, I know your dreams. I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. Like Mussolini and Kennedy, I'm the cult of personality. The cult of personality. The cult of personality. Neon lights, Nobel Prize. When a mirror speaks, the reflection lies. You won't have to follow me. Only you can set me free. I said all the things you need to be. I'm the smiling face on your TV. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. I exploit you, still you love me. I tell you 1 and 1 makes 3. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. Like Joseph Stalin and Gandhi. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. The cult of personality. The cult of personality.